Being a teacher involves many scenarios where improving your public speaking skills would be an advantage. This month was full of useful information that I can now utilize in my day-to-day routine. I'm going to summarize for you my experiences from this month. I'll start with my feelings about public speaking prior to attending this course. Public speaking before this course had its challenges. It wasn't a challenge in the sense that I became nervous in front of people, but a challenge to convey and communicate information in an organized manner. My public speaking experience prior to this course goes only as far as my current job. As an educator by profession, my goal is for students to understand what I am trying to say. Many of the things that I teach are concepts based around technical information. This is a foundation for many other technical details that, if not conveyed properly, could hinder how the information is retained. I feel comfortable with my communication skills. I feel communication is one of my strong points. I have a strong understanding in how people communicate, and this keeps me aware of all aspects of the communication process. My performance experience is extensive. I used to play the cello, which gave me the opportunity to perform in many recitals and concerts, and I have been a DJ on and off for many years, and this has given me more, if not the most, performance experience. I did not have many challenges throughout this course. My delivery style has been pretty consistent throughout all 3 weeks. I became progressively better and better at reading a script and making it sound natural throughout the last 3 weeks. Visual presentation concepts and styles might be the most useful information that I walked away with from this course. I'm not a visual person, so this has never been a strong point of mine. Then again, I don't think I've ever put a visual presentation together in my life aside from podcasts. If I did, I would have made a ton of slide-jaments and probably would have broken every other rule in the visual presentation handbook. That being said, I have a better understanding now about how simplicity is a beautiful thing. Taking care in finding good quality pictures and using minimal text to connect them to the presentation is key. Finding a common theme throughout the series of visuals is a way to keep the audience interested in your presentation. I found Duarte and Reynolds' theories very, very useful. I did not get nervous during any of the presentations. I don't think comparing speaking to a webcam and speaking to a live audience is really the same thing for a few reasons. If you mess up, you can hit stop and re-record. Your audience can re-watch if they wish, which is something you can't do live unless it's being recorded. Speaking in a room in front of a group would heighten anyone's level of nervousness, in my opinion. My audience, so to speak, responded well to my presentations. All of my feedback was positive. I had one comment about going on too long on a subject or rambling. This has always been an area that needs improvement for me. To my classmates, I always gave constructive criticism. All of my responses were written. If they chose to take my suggestions into consideration, I feel it would have benefited them. Most of my feedback was about delivery, and some of it was about organization. Regardless, it was always about the impact on the viewer, because that is what is most important. I spent an adequate amount of time practicing my speeches. This was for a couple reasons. I like to have a script that flows smoothly, so I was constantly re-editing what I had written. This might happen even in the middle of a take where I would stop, edit, and re-record. The other reason for practicing was to rehearse the flow of the presentation. You can tell when someone doesn't rehearse, whether they're reading or not. If they're reading, their phrases sound unnatural, and if they're going by memory, they'll say, a lot. One of the first presentations that we did gave me some technical errors on the rendering process in Keynote. I avoided using Keynote for the rest of the month because of this. Lighting was difficult as well. I don't do film and I'm not a lighting expert. I had to do what looked decent to me and with the tips that were given to me in the How to Correct Your Webcam Lighting blog. Other than those two things, technically everything went smoothly. Out of all of the projects this month, I enjoyed the TED Talk speech and the industry professional speeches the most. I might have enjoyed the industry professional speech more because it had to do with Rick Rubin, and through the project I was able to further educate myself on the history and career of an industry icon. I learned a lot of things from the TED Talk assignment. I will mention what I learned specifically from Ken Robinson in a moment. The overall concept and rules that encompass the TED Talks is a wonderful example of guidelines to presentation greatness. In a nutshell, this is what I took away from that assignment. I mentioned above about what I learned from Gar Reynolds and Nancy Duarte about visual presentation. Sir Ken Robinson touched on things that would take too long to discuss in a 5-minute presentation. If you wanted to relate his presentation to methods in which you can improve your own presentation style, then his sense of stories and humor would be a good place to start. The conversation-esque approach he had was very effective and would be to anyone who could master that skill. His overall presentation of using creativity could generally be applied to any public speaking scenario. Creativity will be much more unique than the traditional approach, in my opinion. The biggest challenge overall when doing these assignments to me is appearing natural. I think that in a presentation, just like any art, it needs to appear convincing. If you did not convince your audience, you lose credibility and their interest. My biggest strength when presenting is energy. Grabbing the audience's attention is easy for me. I think many people have a problem with this. If I was to rate myself on how I did this month from a scale of 1 to 5, I would give myself a 4.5. My flaws are primarily in the production value. After my experiences in this course this month, I can say that having a better knowledge of the form of a presentation has given me an edge, because I know that if the structure is there, then the presentation will have more of an impact. My now new knowledge of visual aids gives me an even greater advantage so that I may appeal to that sense of my audience without hindering or conflicting what I'm saying. This has been a great month and a very useful course. I hope everyone else got as much out of it as I did. Thank you for listening.